So hi everybody. Before we start, just a reminder: if you're seeing this live, it's 9:30 in the morning in this country, but it's still getting warm. And if you're watching on the recording and this is particularly in this current heat, just remember to take a few sips of water every now and then, and realise that the warmer weather does affect our sort of performance. So you may find that you get tired more easily, or need to take a rest. May feel you get lightheaded if it's affecting your circulation. So just a little bit of extra care if you are watching this during the current heat wave that we're getting. Other than that, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to enjoy the session. So starting just rubbing your hands together and the pads of your fingers tapping lightly over your face. Over your head and neck. And then down to the shoulder. So see if you can just feel the muscles vibrating going down the inside of your arm and up the outside. So just aware of the sensations in your body, on the other side. So as well as the physical preparation, is also good ways of bringing your attention into your body. Essential part of the practice. Down to the lower part of your back. And then going around your hips. Down the outside of your legs, and up the inside, back and front as well. And look at the front of your body, nice and light on your belly. And then the upper part of your chest. So, as I said, going nice and easy, especially as you start off. Have your feet directly a bit below your hips. Wait a little bit forward, let your hips drop back. Just bringing your attention to the middle part of your body between your hips and your waist. Turning gently there. And as with the previous exercise, just slowly becoming aware of movements, sensations within your body. Going back to sort of the current heat wave, just be aware that the body does have its own systems for spreading the heat, for releasing heat, and movement is an important part of those. So a little bit of movement is a useful thing. And also that the postures that we take in Tai Chi are there to encourage the movement within the body, so that we're not straining against our own body. So although movement does raise your body temperature a little bit, it also at the same time helps to sort of disperse that heat. The main focus of attention here is going to be that middle part of your body, a feeling of it dropping towards the ground, and recognizing that as you turn in your center, actually you can feel the effect of that right through your body, up into your shoulders, down into your arms, maybe down into your legs and your feet as well. That's a little bit more subtle and can take a little bit of time to develop. You may find that you're moving your weight in one way or another. Strictly speaking, this exercise doesn't involve weight movement. But if your weight is moving, don't strain against that. Sometimes our weight moves because of resistance in our body, and what we don't want to do is to sort of push hard against that resistance. So if you can work out why your weight is moving, maybe a bit of tightness in your back as you turn or something like that, and if you can release that, well and good. But if not, don't don't worry if the weight is movement, but to be fair, some people do this exercise with a bit of movement of weight. So the main thing is to feel that sense of a smooth, fluid movement working through your body from the middle of the body. That centre part of the body becomes a really important focus for our attention. And we gradually learn to settle, to anchor our attention more effectively in our bodies. This gives us a greater awareness that we can bring into the movements. And it also, of course, carries with it this lovely sort of quality of calmness and stillness that is such a feature of these arts. These are good early morning exercises to sort of wake us up a little bit. They're very simple, but they offer quite a lot of opportunity for reflection. Turning your hands palm out, just raise them up a little bit, trying to get your arms and hands into a position where it feels reasonably comfortable, where you're not having to struggle to maintain the position. So it shouldn't be any higher than shoulder height, maybe lower, that's fine. Remember, this is right at the start of the session, so we're building these things up slowly and gently. And letting your hands drop. And then put one foot forwards and just moving your weight a little bit forwards and backwards, a gentle push against the ground. So I mentioned this feeling of the centre of your body dropping towards the ground. It's now moving towards one leg and then the other. So beginning to build a picture of your body that's inclusive, includes the whole of your body as one unit, rather than what can be a slightly fragmented view that we have of an arm over there and a leg down there. And this aspect of Tai Chi of moving from the ground is important for that. It's important for maintaining the structure of our body as we move. And that awareness of the ground and that feeling of your centre, the centre of gravity dropping, is what we call rooting down in Tai Chi, one of the key physical principles. And then with your other foot forwards, and shake. So we're constantly renewing our awareness of posture and bringing about changes in our posture. It should always be done very, very gently. These are significant physical changes in your body. They're very, very subtle, and you need to give your body time to adapt and condition for the change. It's also one of the ways that we keep our attention engaged. So just looking at one aspect of this, the principle of releasing, letting go, softening, these are all understandings that we can draw from the Chinese term sung. Relaxing is another one, of course. Starting with an awareness of your shoulders, just push your shoulders up towards your ears, very gently, don't strain, and then slowly down. Concentrating first of all on the downward movement and that feeling of what I would call releasing in the big muscles in that area as they no longer have to hold your shoulders up. You feel that in your back, maybe in your chest as well. So this is one aspect of this Chinese term song. Maybe noticing that with that goes a quality of movement and beginning to feel that you can maintain that quality of movement and that softness, that suppleness in the muscles as you push up as well, we may find ourselves tightening, stiffening up as we push up. These are very common habits, but we can bring an intention to not do that. Having done that with this upper part of the body, now bringing your attention again back to this middle area, belly, lower back, hips and buttocks, and do the same sort of thing. Not straining, but maybe just pulling your belly in a little bit and then letting it drop out again. And once again, just feeling that quality of releasing and the movement that goes with that. Beginning to bring that into the foreground as an intention. This is a quality of movement that you want to maintain. I mentioned earlier the significance of that centre part of the body, and what we can begin to feel here is that when we tighten up in the middle part of our body seems to tighten up. When we release, our whole body has a chance to release. So this, again, part of the key aspects of this centre part of the body. Another thing that will start to happen, again I'll come closer so you can see that as I release, there's a slight bend occurs in my knees. If I pull my belly in, it seems to pull my knees back. When I release, I get that little curve in my knees and a greater sense of dropping down, of rooting down. So in a few moments we're going to follow that movement up with a dropping back of our hips, and our knees will bend more. But I don't want you to have the impression that it's all about bending the knees. There's this releasing, softening feeling in the knees that allows the centre of gravity to drop. We go down into the deeper stances for various reasons, not least to condition our body to get a deeper sense of the root. But we don't have to bend the knees a lot. So just as we start to move our hips more, go nice and easy and gently. And remember again, in the warmer weather, joints can swell up. So that may reduce your mobility. So this time, as you let your belly drop out, let your hips drop back. So you go down a little bit deeper, feeling this sense of a compression in your legs that eventually just takes over and pushes you up. Come up to that top position, not locking your knees back. Gravity takes over and draws you down. So we learn to align our body with the pull of gravity and to make use of the pull of gravity to give us that deeper sense of root, to draw our attention inwards and downwards, to literally centre, to ground our attention. And as we're beginning to discover, to initiate a cycle of movement, a cycle of energy down into the ground, and then the sense of a movement arising back up. So these are three aspects of rooting down that are very important, and that sense of the movement, the energy, is one of the key aspects of Tai Chi, one of the key energetic cycles. See if you can let this settle into a nice steady rhythm that begins to pervade the whole of your upper body. You may find that your breathing begins to follow this rhythm. Not always, but don't force that. But when it happens, you may notice it. Bringing your hands around as though you're cradling the ball, and that rising movement, pushing your elbows out, drawing your hands up, turn your hands over, and and let the hips sink. Let gravity draw you down. Turn your hands at the bottom and push up. This is the exercise, rooting down. So we start to get this very dynamic quality flowing smoothly and harmoniously through the body. It's one of many forms of energy that we have in our bodies. And it's one of the key ones that we work with in Tai Chi. We have the movement and we begin to, if you like, create shapes with that movement, that energy to flow through. Awareness and intention are an important part of this process. So the image for this movement of lifting a ball and pressing it down in water is very simple. The idea of moving through water is a very common image for all of the movements. But if you find an image isn't working for you, don't feel that you've failed. The images are there to help make us more aware of what's going on within the body, to be able to influence what's going on within the body. And eventually we want to get to a point where we don't need the imagery, ideally, where the connection between mind and body doesn't require an intermediary. And you may get glimpses of that with some of the movements as you become more experienced. Nothing wrong with using the imagery, but it's not the final work. So rooting down, gradually getting the sense of your centre of gravity dropping into the ground as you sink down. And then from that position, your body expanding upwards and outwards, so keeping that connection with the ground. I mentioned moving through water, but other images can be used as sometimes described as though your whole body is being massaged by you, bathed by you. Do one more of these. At the bottom, rotate your hands out so your fingers point away from you and push up. And your arms get pushed out and they swing up quite smoothly. This is the exercise of the wild goose. So it may be that the image of the bird in flight conveys some kind of quality for you. Just making sure my fingertips don't disappear. Try not to stiffen up in your shoulders. One more of these. And then letting your hands drop down, crossing in front of your belly. Just parting the clouds. Your arms just swinging around in a nice smooth circle. I'll do one more of these. All three of these exercises involve the same sinking down and pushing up in your hips. So now coming back to the first of them, rooting down, and building a little sequence, one movement after another. Turning the fingers out. And then dropping down. So just noticing the contrast that we feel between one movement and another, in terms of what's happening in our body physically, in terms of the imagery, whatever associations we make with the movements. So we begin to get a glimpse of how we can bring an intentionality to these changes. Begin to get a glimpse of how we might begin to influence these movements from the inside out. Small changes can have very big effects. And the small changes that we begin to recognize within our body are probably more likely to be influenced by intentionality. So this is not mind over matter. We're not forcing our body into doing anything that is uncomfortable, but rather cultivating our intention so that we can begin to influence the movements, both the bigger movements that we see, but also those patterns of energy within the body. I sometimes describe the small changes that we experience, become aware of, as being like the bricks and mortar in a wall. When they start to work together, we can build the wall. This is again an ongoing process of cultivation in these arts. We might find that we're able to bring that gentle intention to areas of the body that feel a bit tight, a bit stiff, maybe even a bit painful. Maybe imagine that flow, that massaging feeling within the body in that area, and not all the time, but sometimes we can just gain a little bit of relief. Always remember though, if you are experiencing sort of ongoing pain or problems or discomfort in a particular part of the body, there are limits to what we can do. We may be able to affect those, but there may come a time when you feel you might need to call on external help. GP can always be a first stop in that process. And we can achieve a great deal with these exercises, these practices, but never 100%. So we're training awareness to settle within our bodies, bring a sense of intention there, but also recognizing that this process is a two-way process, or three-way really. These three aspects of the body, our minds, our awareness and intention, the movement, the energy, affecting each other, influencing and supporting each other, like three legs of a tripod that you might put a camera on. Sometimes what's happening in the movement will draw our attention to it, for instance. Sometimes an intention will affect the flow of the movement. Sometimes we might need to think about adjusting our posture, and that too helps to ground us, to center us. One more round of this. Now, letting your hands drop down to your sides, just feeling the weight of your arms on your shoulders, feeling that dropping back in your hips, sinking down, and as you push up, bringing your awareness to one side of your body and expanding, wind your arm around, contracting, drawing down. This dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Settle for a moment, again feeling the weight of your arms, hips dropping back, and then push up on the other side. Notice that my elbow is still bent at the end of the movement. Recalling something that I said in one of the earlier warm-up exercises, that we want to find a comfortable position for our arms and our hands. This is not intended to be a stretch. It's an extension and contraction through the body. You want to make sure that your hand stays a little bit in front of your body, doesn't pull back, doesn't go up too high. Over a period of time, you'll probably find that your range of movement will increase. But one of the characteristics of our postures, as I said earlier, is that they help to generate a sense of space for movement within the body. So however far you're moving, you really want to feel that you could have moved a little bit further, so maintaining that space. Notice if you're speeding up, and this is very common. If you've got a busy day ahead of you, or you've had a busy day, your mind may be rushing ahead. And this is where details of the movement can be really helpful, and in particular, this little moment in time, very short moment in time when we feel the weight of our arms, we feel our hips settle. It reminds us of that quiet stillness that is a feature of these arts. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. One more time. From this deeper posture, come up to that top posture, so still a slight curve in the knees and your hips. Bringing your hands alongside that center part of your body, lightly touching that side of your body with the inside of your arm. Pushing up, so just keeping the hips dropping back a little bit, lengthening through your back and your spine, so you're pressing your arms up against a low ceiling. And again, make sure your hands stay in front of your body. Try not to do this. For some reason, we often do that when we lift our arms up. Bringing your hands back down, lightly touching the side of your body. Lift again and push out sideways. And this time, as you do, turn in the middle part of your body. Coming back, feeling the contraction into your center. And then the expansion from your center down to the ground and out through your arms. Turn the opposite way and back, and then final stage is to push sideways without turning. This is pushing in 4 directions. An exercise with a very strong leaning towards drawing your attention into your center, from there down into the ground. Feeling the significance of that central part of your body, expansion and contraction to and from there. When we turn in the middle part of our body, we guide the movement, we guide our arms in a particular direction. And always, particularly as we bring our hands back in the centre, dropping towards the ground. All of these exercises should have those features. I think it's particularly noticeable with this. And remember, we're having a physical effect not just on muscles and bones and tendons, but on the nervous system. So gradually, our ability to bring our attention to our centre, to move from our centre, is improved. One more round. Now, letting your hands drop down and again focusing on one side and again feeling that expansion from the centre of your body, pushing your arm out, elbow is slightly bent and your arm just allowed to swing up till it's in line with your nose, straight down. The weight of your arm hanging down and again pushing out and down. This time, again, it can feel as though you're just pushing up into a low ceiling. As you get to the top, turn slightly. Yeah. Just bring your arm across a little bit. Always keep in mind this feeling of space within the body. So again, however far you're moving, it's always an intention to stop before you lose that space. Now, changing sides, noticing the difference between one side and another. And once again, noticing key moments, like for instance here, feeling the weight of your arm hanging from your shoulder before you push out again. Just slowing down that unconscious impulse to speed up. Once again, adding the turn. Coming back to the standing, when our hips drop back, the pelvis just realigns itself, and this helps to keep our centre of gravity over our feet. Mostly this is the upright stance that we use, but for the next two movements, we're going to be pushing the hips back. So our upper body tilts and our head goes forward, but it's important to think of this going back to keep our centre of gravity over our legs, down through our legs. And also be very careful of this extension. Remember that feeling of space. And then when we come back up, we just allow gravity to pull our hips down. So gravity helps us to bring us to the upright position. Go as far as you're comfortable with this. I'll try and do the movements quite big so you can see what I'm doing, but it's not an expectation that you will move the same distance. This time, as you push your hips back, drop down a little bit more in your legs, and then the hips are drawn down, you push up, your arms swinging over and out. This is a movement called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. And nice and easy and gently. You should feel like a comfortable extension from the hips and base of your spine up through into your arms, fingers. One more. And the second exercise that uses this movement in the centre is polishing the table. You turn, push your hips back, swing them across, feel them being drawn down to come to the upright, turn back, and then go in the other direction. So we begin to feel again the significance of that centre part of the body. From the back, so you can see what my hips are doing. Remember, this is exaggerated. Across, the hips drop down, centre. And in the other direction. So the centre part of our body guides our arms, our movements. It also has this profound influence on the vertical alignment of our body. Not straining in shoulders or back, simply to become upright. One more time for polishing the table. And then come to the standing position, bring your hands onto your belly, just let them rest there for the moment. Maybe feeling a slight movement, a rise and fall there as you breathe in and out. Give your legs a little bit of a shake. So this increasingly comfortable focus of attention on the centre part of our body has all sorts of ramifications for our physical posture. It's regarded, the centre part of the body, as a key area of the body that the energy sort of circulates around and moves out from and goes back to. And it also has this quality of actually giving our attention a place to rest. And I think that these are all things that we can begin to feel spill over into our daily lives. I do remember my first teacher saying to us that we would find ourselves standing in supermarket queues in these postures. I can remember standing there, my legs aching, thinking, why would I want to do that, until exactly that happened. It's all very well to say, oh, you can just relax, but we often find ourselves in circumstances that can be quite stressful, and it's difficult to just switch off, and it's not always appropriate to switch off. But what we can do is learn through practicing Tai Chi and Qigong that there's a quiet space. There's a stillness within the movement, so we can sort of begin to carry that with us in a sense. And as I said, the physical aspects of the practice on the effects on muscles and tendons and ligaments and nervous system actually help to facilitate that. So being centered in Tai Chi is not a metaphor, nor is being grounded. And we're going to change the stance again. Imagine parallel lines going through your feet. We refer to them as tram lines sometimes. Turn one foot out, step forward with the other foot, keeping that width. And you can see the background still between my legs. And once again, begin to transfer your weight forwards and backwards. Pay a little bit more attention to this than when we did it before. You're not getting all your weight in. You'll get about 70% of your weight in your back foot, about 16 in your front foot. And again, to start off with, we feel it as a kind of push against the ground. Often what we do when we want to move, and this is reflected in everyday walking, is we angle forward slightly. This can be quite useful if we're in a hurry, because our centre of gravity goes slightly forward, but it can be overdone. One of the problems that we can experience doing that, if there isn't some kind of counter effect, is that we lose our structure. If you imagine having a pile of books on a table, and you decide you want to move them. If you were to push against the top couple of books, then you know what will happen. The books will just collapse. The pile will collapse. But if you push at the bottom, it's more likely to maintain its structure. So it's one of the really important benefits that we get from the process of rooting down, and an awareness of what's happening in our feet and our legs, of moving from the ground. Now, this time, when you go forwards, push your back knee in so your heel comes up, and you'll feel yourself shift just a little bit. Go back, raise your front toes, settle in. So you gradually start to bring your upper body and your head more in line with that supporting foot. You could have the front foot turned out slightly, as I have here. Taking a moment to settle. So once again, there are these moments in the movements that I sometimes describe as being like a comma in a sentence. Not exactly pauses, but they sort of break up this tendency to rush. And with this, we can begin to see that's not a luxury. That if we want to be stable, and in particular if we want to be stable over one leg, then that stillness, that pausing, if you like to think of it like that, is an essential thing to allow our awareness to catch up. There's a very good chance that in the transition from one leg to another, you've lost some of your alignment, our thoughts get distracted all the time, but we can reset this way. Now, this time, bring your back foot in, push back and out, put the ball of your foot down, lower your heel, gently press in, and move your weight back. As the front foot, as the heel goes down, then the ball of your foot. When you press in, you plant the foot. So these moments of stillness, nothing's happening. But they do help to break this tendency we can sometimes feel in life of running downhill, speeding up all the time. And they're not luxuries, they are essential for the movement. And they don't have to take a lot of time. We're not talking about standing here for hours adjusting posture, just a moment where we can settle. So, change sides, do that on the other side. Getting that feeling of just quieting down I'm beginning to feel that that isn't separate from the movement. The phrase that I like to quote in Tai Chi is that we're urged to seek the stillness within the movement. It would be lovely to think that we never lost that, but in practice, of course, we do all the time. So that those moments of resetting become really valuable to us and essential. If we're going to build these movements in terms of the physical movements and the movement of the energy, we can't do that if we're under stress, if our thoughts are distracted. We need to maintain as much as possible that focus of attention. And then, once again, beginning to raise toes and heel. Once again, you can have the front foot turned out. So again, we're not talking about sort of major changes in the body. We develop an intuitive sense of how this can feel. And alongside that, we develop an intention to maintain and or return to that. Stepping in. There's a quality that we might refer to as tranquility, is one that we can begin to find in our movements, not just the movements of Tai Chi and Qigong, but in our everyday movements. Stepping through, so you go forwards or backwards depending on where you have the space, of course. Don't get obsessed with the idea of standing on one leg. Sometimes you'll see me do this, I have my foot up. Other times, if I feel it's appropriate, my toes will go down here, so I can reset here as well before I step out. And then changing direction if you haven't done so already. Just reflecting on this process of walking for its own sake. Good. Now, have your right foot forwards, hip width across your feet. Start with your weight in your back foot. Push forwards, and as you arrive in your front foot, just let your arms swing through. Push back, and as you arrive in the back leg, likewise the arms swing through. This is fisherman casting. Lovely wave-like energy arising from the ground, pushing up through your body, expanding out through your arms. Very smooth feeling in your shoulders as being very gently massaged. This time as you go land in your front foot, turn a little bit to your left. Notice how that swings your arms out. Letting them drop down as you move, settle into your back foot, and turn. The body expanding and contracting. Expanding and contracting. This is called wind blows the winds. Have that lovely image of the willow tree with its deep roots, supple wood. Once again, aware of the significance of the central part of your body. Hips and waist, moving, guiding the rest of your body from the ground. And then just give your legs a shake. Have your left foot forwards. And once again, fisherman cast a net. Recalling images like moving through water. That can have an interesting effect on the body of both encouraging flow, but also a very specific type of conditioning of your body. Think of our body, particularly the upper body, being gently massaged by the movement, bathed by the movement. You can feel that arising movement, that pulse, that rhythm, underpinning all the other movements in our body, governing those movements. Remember, areas that feel tight and stiff, you can bring an intention to release there. This time, turning into wind blows the willows, not straining, not twisting your back. Movement, the turn is in the area between the hips and your waist, sometimes referred to as the dantian, or the lower dantian. Aware of those patterns of change within your body. We're going to combine this with stepping. So again, you can either go forwards or backwards. I'm going to go forwards. You turn, and as you turn, you raise your heel or your toes, you bring the foot in. Give yourself a moment once again to settle, to reset, step through, plant the foot. Again, not getting too caught up with the idea that you have to stand on one leg. But what you may find that you can do, having reset, is bring your foot up, rotating your hip. This is called dragonfly skims the water. If you're not comfortable raising your leg, then don't. Better to keep your foot down to maintain the qualities of posture and movement that we want, than to find yourself straining and struggling. With practice and time, you'll find that you will be able to bring the leg up. I'm going to change direction before I bump into the camera. So dragonfly skims the water, keeping your body in line, hips dropping back. Trying not to strain. Your upper body just to move your arms. It's in that pulsing energy, do the work for you. Coming back to that. And shake out. Good. I mentioned a few times now this idea of resetting. Once we start to get a sense for how the posture can feel, that can become in part intuitive. There will always be space and should always be times when we're looking with more detail, but just on a kind of everyday, moment to moment level, having a sense of how it can feel. It's a bit like knowing that your shoes are on. You know how your shoes feel. You don't have to keep thinking about it all the time. And so we're more likely to come back. The qualities that we find in these postures are sometimes summed up in the Chinese term zhongding. That translates to something like central equilibrium. And I like the term because it seems to engage all aspects, mind, body, and energy. And a good image for central equilibrium is a mountain. If you imagine the mountain standing up tall and strong, but mountains are inherently deeply rooted, if you like. But they also have a sense of space around them, a sense of stillness, and a sense of quite dynamic. So they encompass many of the qualities that we look for in central equilibrium. This last exercise is called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. So emphasizing this process of coming back that I feel is really important for us, really useful for us in our daily lives. So, final exercise, coming back to the standing posture, letting your hips drop back and down a little bit, pushing down. As you push up, again your arms coming out. This is the embracing tiger bit. You bring your hands around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest. Feeling the pull of gravity on your hips, seeming to draw your hands in and then sinking down, returning to the mountain. Arms drop for a moment and then start again. And see if there's one or two features of this movement that are spotlighted for you. What brings you back most effectively? What would be most useful to you later in the day? Maybe things have gone a bit hectic. And what would be most useful for you to remember at that point? One more round. Once again, bringing your hands to that center part of your body, taking a couple of nice, slow, gentle, relaxed breaths. Shake. As always, thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. And as always, please do get in touch if you have any questions or comments. But enjoy the rest of your day.